welcome back to Friday's episode of Crypto. My God, there's all sorts of exciting things. I mean, we're having market dips, we're having market bumps. I mean, who knows what's going on out there in the actual pricing of things. But in terms of technology, in terms of advancement, in terms of just like the market starting to grok or starting to actually internalize this digital financial force, I mean, we've got some trippy shit going on. Let's get into it. All right, so first and foremost, we have this just unrelenting price accrual in the Circle IPO. I talked about it briefly. I really didn't expect to talk about, just a stock going up, but there is huge signal here. Well, one, that IPO price of around $31. Again, that investment bank really underpriced this goddamn thing. And if I'm Jeremy Allaire, the CEO of Circle, I'm kind of looking at this like, y'all left like $1 billion+ on the table that could be used for operational capital inside the business. And I'm sure that there's some elbows being dropped on some badass bitches. Anyway, this is wild. But what's really exciting to me is that over the past X years, with the Biden administration, with Gensler, with Warren, with everything, like just looking at the world was like, why the fuck are you trying to push digital dollars offshore? Why would you want this to be somewhere else? Why would you not want what we're seeing happening with Circle? And the reason I say this is because the petrodollar is falling apart. Oil trades are happening in other assets like the yuan recently. Even Bitcoin was a denominized oil trade asset, I believe, between Russia, or I covered it, whatever it means. But the fundamentals is that the US cannot trust its place as a secured asset for oil exchange anymore. The Jekyll Island deal is a bygone era. However, with blockchain, we now have all of these countries far and wide who suffer from hyperinflation, who lack so many financial primitives. They began storing their wealth in US dollars, largely on the Tron blockchain, which is probably something to discuss because Tron was like a cheap fork of Ethereum. It has less security, but it really made that trade-off for speed, for cheapness, and it's just enormous in Africa. People use it to send money. They're a mobile-first country. They want dollars because their local currency just sucks. It hyperinflates. And I even recently learned yesterday that life insurance actually has a very tough time taking hold in developing nations because these people actually think that they're going to outlive their own currencies. So the US dollar, to be able to store that, to be able to give this to small businesses, to just independent, poverty-stricken region people, I mean, this allows them to have a savings account all on their cell phone. I mean, this is doing far beyond what banking could ever hope to achieve. And that dollar hegemony that we so value, that keeps the United States on the top of the global pecking order, was at huge risk, and they wanted to get rid of it. I mean, even to this day, Warren has been against the Genius Bill, which I've gone on to say, there's parts of it I don't love, but like, fuck, just give us stable coins. It's not that hard. It's not that crazy. It's not even the most exciting thing going on in crypto. In fact, probably the least exciting thing. It's just the most obvious, right? We're just digitizing the goddamn dollars. And it's even unsavory because it's a bank account that doesn't return yield to the capital owners or the providers, the people. But nonetheless, when I look at the Circle price, it just validates the whole thing I just ranted against, which is that the digital dollar is so desirable. People want it, and they want it bad. And it is being reflected in this crazy, crazy stock right now. So anyway, let's move on. So further interesting items going on just in like traditional finance, accumulating and buying, and just the fierce, fierce desire to accrue. We're seeing it in stablecoins, obviously through Circle, and we're seeing it through Bitcoin. Alts are suffering in this market, but heck, what are you going to do? Now, Arkham, which is one of the better resources for on-chain information, asset movement, et cetera, is following the Japanese MicroStrategy, which is called MetaPlanet. I talked about MetaPlanet very loosely, but it was the most highly traded stock on the Nikkei exchange. All pretty wild because Japan does a lot of volume and they're very solid on the TradFi. And they're raising another $5.4 billion to buy Bitcoin. These things just continue to signal further down the line the massive adoption in what is going to be this reserve asset. Honestly, Bitcoin came out as a reserve against the fiat, and it was supposed to be for the people. But, we talked about smart money versus dumb money. General public is the dumb money. The smart money is starting to look at this reserve asset and say, I don't know, maybe there's something here. And we do have further things to unpack, right? Like less Bitcoin is actually moving on the network. It's now just being held in these reserves. Is that positive? Is it not? There's infighting like the op return between Citria, other projects that want to scale the capacities of Bitcoin to offer new features, new tooling. And then there's just like the node operators that want to keep it simple, stupid, KISS method never really hurts. But we are just seeing this aggressive volume. And let's keep in mind, they want to own 210,000 Bitcoin by 2027. These Bitcoin got to come from somewhere, right? The miners aren't pumping out this much to sell this. So this is early holders offloading their assets. This is, I mean, the German government sold, oh my God, their stash for such little money. Anyway, the further this goes, this is a positive flywheel. We are just going to see the narrative reinforce itself that if you do not have Bitcoin now, you might be shit out of luck. And that's pretty far out coming from Japan, who's actually going into an aggressive inflationary environment. We had all of the cuts promised from the Trump admin, but the big beautiful bill is just going to add more debt. It just seems like the national debt is something that cannot be fixed. The Washington Post even talked today about taxpayer dollars going into affordable housing units in DC that all cost about $1.3 million per unit. So we can just see that the bloat is so endemic to the system that we're just never going to get away from printing more of the fiat. It's an addiction. It's the way the world works. And maybe, just maybe, Bitcoin is the answer. I have hopes. I've been following it for a long time. Now, another exciting update. X announced, X, man, it's like the worst name for a product ever. I don't even know how to verb it. Still say tweeting. But X announced that they're going to be adding prediction markets with Polymarket. Now, Polymarket, close to my heart for a few reasons. One, their CEO, Shane Copeland, I met him very early on, probably in like the 2016, 2017 days. Dude's a total mensch, just a fucking sweetheart. He's been raided by the FBI. He's been hit by the CFTC for like doing illegal futures trading. And I mean, they just came out as an all-around winner, especially in the Trump-Biden debates, just as a prediction market. Now, one thing I have always wanted to see, I've even put some money into companies hoping that this would happen, was that, in my opinion, Twitter is just a dunking contest. People want to dunk on each other. It doesn't even matter if you're right or wrong. It's just about, again, the dunk and being like, booyakasha, bitches. And I would always love to see, oh, you have a hot take, want to put money on it? You could just put a predictions market. If someone comes out and they say, oh, X is going to be Y by Z date, and like people love to do that, it's like, hey, you want to put money on it? You want to bet? Bam. And I do think that X is seeking to be like a WeChat, like a super app. I know that they want to compete with Robinhood for everything investment-wise. We've had conversations with the X team on the back end about adding stablecoins, about adding blockchain features. And this just goes so hand in hand with people tweeting, is to say, oh, if you're so badass, if you're so knowledgeable, let's just make a market around it. And that's really exciting. And I think Polymarket is great. I think Shane is probably one of the best representatives of the blockchain space, period, because he's a good guy, because he believes in the ethos, and because he's made a product that's not really that extractive. I mean, there's not even a token attached to it. You just like go ahead and use it. So super, super exciting. Now back to something I don't talk about very often is token price. But you've heard me complain a lot about broken market structures. So I do get excited when I see a new token launch, which happens to be a company that I very much like. In full candor, I have zero financial exposure to Lagrange. I begged their CEO back in the day to let me in on the private rounds, and since then I've just been a simp-ass fanboy for the team, for the founder, for everything that they've been building. And this is because I think the technology is exactly following the path that I want to see. On the flip side, they also titled their token LA, which just has given them all this awesome Twitter firepower for 90s rap gangbang and shit, and I do love it. I'm like, this is the only protocol that will shoot a man in broad daylight. But anyway, I digress. So just looking at this really quickly, we have a fully diluted valuation now. It's gone up since launch, so it's more than quadrupled, which is pretty great to see, meaning it did not launch at this billion-dollar valuation, right? We're looking at a couple $100 million for a really solid infrastructure play. This, to me, is signaling that people, CEOs, teams are willing to lean into this new meta of healthy market releases. One of my biggest problems has been overvalued tokens at launch. We saw it with Barachain, and I think proof of liquidity is super cool, but Bara has been down and to the right, which is really unfortunate for such a hyped project, and that is because they oversold. They created token value bloat. Here we're seeing Lagrange did the opposite, and people are being rewarded. Now, they did something pretty stellar, which is hard to pull off. They got listed on the Korean exchanges first, and very early. The Koreans are hype beasts, and they will pump your token. They love to day trade. However, that aside, I do think Lagrange is really cool. Now, Lagrange is a mathematical term. I'm really familiar with it in astronomy. It's where, and I'm pretty confident that it does refer to any sort of vector-based system like gravity. And a Lagrangian point between planets is really where the gravitational pull between the two entities is equaled out. So at a Lagrangian point is somewhere that you would like to deposit a satellite or something that wants to stand still. Basically, there's no gravity at these elements. They're an element of exchange between two network units, right? Let's imagine a planet being a node in this network, which is gravitational pull. When the planets kind of get at a midpoint, there's no gravitational pull in each direction because it is uniquely and mathematically balanced out to zero. And so on that, I'm not going to give you a hefty breakdown as to the mathematician Lagrange. I'm going to lean on your curiosity because that's what I'm here for, is to inspire you to look things up yourself. Just ask your AI. However, the protocol itself, what we are looking at, is zero knowledge technology coming to life. To me, this is the tits. This is the holy grail. This is what we want to see. Now, the core idea here is AI you can prove. And why do we want to prove this? Well, we want to be able to submit things to AI. Like, let's say, hey, I talk to AI, like, dude, my dick keeps shrinking. How do I make it bigger? Well, maybe, just maybe, that's not data that I want Meta to know, right? That could be something embarrassing. And I obviously go for the lolsy comedy bits, but the reality is, as we talk to these things more, we probably don't want them to have such deep insight as to who we are. The more information we feed, the bigger the profile around us gets built. And that profile could easily be bleeding into our X accounts, where we get very subversive information dripped slowly over time. And as we can see with a lot of the psychological operations happening in social media at present, people latch on to one idea and they can really be driven and kind of pushed into an alternative ideology. We are not that defensive in our information. So it's very important that we add systems around this. You've heard me talk about identity and identifiers breaking off. ZK is perfect for this. But when we look down here, look, 3+ million inferences proven. An inference is me trying to infer something into an AI, right? Prompting it, getting it back. That's the AI's connection with me as a human. This is great to have a zero knowledge layer between it. So it can say, hey, Graham, your little dick issue, like, it can give me feedback. And this whole thing will be kept in private. There is no connection to Graham or the fact that he has a problem with his wee-wee, because that would be embarrassing. Now, ZK proofs generated, these are all in verifying these inferences, and Deep Proof users is just another product that they built that goes even deeper into the machine learning processes, into the AI components. Lagrange's DProve ZKML, which stands for Zero Knowledge Machine Learning, enables verifiable AI at scale. As AI becomes increasingly embedded in our everyday lives, we must be able to prove that AI models are producing results according to their expected functions. As the fastest ZKML in existence, DProve makes it easy to generate proofs and AI inferences across any application. Now, this also goes into the fact that as we ask AI and we rely on it, we need to know that that data is also correct. So we need to be able to take that data to run it against the AI model, right? Maybe it was trained improperly, and just know that what we're getting back is not BS. You don't want to have a world just full of misinformation. If we're going to start moving our whole worldview of AI as the educator over to the machines, we need to know that they're actually educating us correctly. Of course, we have the prover network, and what ZK does is it submits a proof that says, hey, this is the mathematical representation of, let's say, Graham asking the AI a question. A prover comes out, looks at the proof, and validates it, says, yes, this proof is correct. This is how they're able to prove something and verify it as real without having to unpack the information underneath. We can hash it under math and just keep it, again, unidentified with the actual core information. So they also have a coprocessor, which allows people to, again, implement the tech, build it into their apps, and grow this whole world. This is a really amazing platform in an age of AI that's both moving our money, that's handling our information, both private and public. We need ZK. It will actually, if we can break through, it states like most of the regulators' issues around having a middleman in financial transactions. This is the way that we unlock an autonomous world without creating hegemony like Mark Zuckerberg, like Sam Altman and OpenAI, where we don't have these huge, robust profiles. And in reality, we can bitch and moan about the surveillance state of China all we want, but Palantir is building it right here. The difference is the US does it in a private way where you can actually own shares to it, whereas China just has this overlord mentality. Either way, we're moving towards surveillance state, and that's probably not something that we want in the end. Now, last but not least, this will also allow us to help just prove our own identities. I think WorldCoin's doing a great job at this, but anyone inside the crypto industry right now is being under full assault by North Korea. It's happening to basically everyone I know. And it's people that you've chatted with for years, sending you malicious links because they've been spoofed and because you can't validate that this is actually someone who you know and trust. And ZK is a great way to put this to bed. We can have verifiable signatures through private keys that we own and maintain that could be accessed through biometrics. WorldCoin does it with your eyeballs, but there's plenty of ways to do it. We all have biometric encryption on our trusted encrypted enclaves, which is a sub chip inside of our cell phones. So the cell phone could easily be the big unlock that verifies whether you are you or not. Of course, it's a little easy to steal and bypass, so I have some nerves there. But all of this stuff around ZK, as we get deeper into the AI era, super, super fundamental. It does mean that we don't need these regulatory bodies sitting in the middle. We don't need these honeypots of data like the KYC that Coinbase collected that gets exploited. These things break down every time, and we need to pull that back. We need the identity and the identifiers to be split, and we need a more cryptographically secured future. So with that being said, I'm excited to see not only the tech, because I actually think Lagrange fucks, and I'm super excited to see this release and make the world a better place, but also just damn, when have you seen a publicly listed coin go up and to the right? This is good. This is healthy for our ecosystem. It's obviously good for anyone that invested in it. I'm sitting here. I didn't buy any Lagrange. I didn't buy any Circle. So I'm just your humble sucker dude trying to enlighten you and open the door to curiosity. With that being said, have a great weekend. I don't know if I'd really want to be long or short in the market in either direction. I don't know what the hell's going on. And Trump and this whole Elon battle is, while it's great popcorn, probably not going to be the best for your bags for at least the short-term period. Anyway, as always, have a great weekend. Good luck out there, and I'll see you on Monday.